So our presentation is on Chapter 2, a historical overview. So this chapter links technologies, inventors, and historical moments to provide in-depth examination of the socio-political and ethical context from which technologies emerge. It provides a broad overview of the history behind technology by tracing the roots of technological development. This chapter shows how technology was ingrained in society and became a huge part of our lives. So why do we study the technology? So technology is seen as a key mechanism of social change, moving society forward into new social, cultural, political, and economic milieux. In other words, it made it possible for us to live the way we live in the present. It made it possible for humans to subsist in megacities because of the constant advancement in technology. The evolution, construction, and mass distribution of goods, because of that, megacities were created. According to the evolutionary model of technological development, tools were built upon existing knowledge, which means the advancement in technology is incremental. For example, the automobile. So there are two difficulties when studying the history of technology. There's a gap in time and space, and the reliance on artifacts as evidence. There's also something called material culture. And material culture refers to the interrelation between an artifact and the social relations, cultural attitudes, and norms that are present in society that uses artifacts. Artifacts have a great importance for history. It can be considered the basic components of material culture and are usually contrasted with elements from nature. There are 7 periods of technological innovation, and I'm going to start with the Stone Age. So the period of the Stone Age took place 2.6 million years ago, and it entails the use of primitive tools. And those primitive tools were used to animal butchery and possibly preparing plant foods and working with wood. During that time, society would subsist on meat obtained by hunting prey and produced obtained by edible plants and berries. Those were called hunter-gatherer societies, and they lived in nomadic tribes. Those tribes depended directly on the climate and food availability. The Cultural Revolution, the Agricultural Revolution, or Neolithic Revolution didn't occur until 8,500 years ago in China, followed by Sub-Saharan Africa and the America between 4,000 and 5,000 years ago. The transition from hunter-gatherer society to horticultural and pastoral societies began the Agricultural Revolution. Horticultural societies used simple hand tools to plant and tend crops. Pastoral societies domesticated animals and bred them for food. Agricultural innovation is still happening to this day, and new forms of farming are overcoming many problems present with food supply. For example, the Luffa farms in Montreal. This Neolithic revolution was a huge turning point for society in the sociological aspect. It gave a sense of community, belonging, social structure, and identity. It marked the merged social roles and class. It helped sedentary societies to increase their economical and social complexity. In addition, not everyone had to be involved in production settlements. The downside, gender disparity increased, and greater disparities also increased between wealthy and poverty.
The next one is ancient technology, and this was in Greece around 500 BCE to 336 BCE, and in Rome. They were known for their technological and social advancements at the time. William S. Fowler states in his book that the tools were not the most impactful to their innovation, but the use of the scientific method and their thought processes. Roman architecture was very progressive and influential to the way society flowed by allowing groups to form and emerge in large building spaces. Roman and Greek thinking still influence modern society today, especially with basic research, the scientific questioning about the general world and not specific problems to be solved. The Renaissance, the awakening of the mind through technology. So it is safe to say that Johannes Gutenberg's printing press was one of the most influential pieces of technology at the time, as it was a tool that introduced mass production, mass distribution, and the thought of the bigger audience. The printing press has been connected to the increase in literacy, and the spreading and rising of new ideas throughout Europe. Before the printing press was invented, scribes often handwrote the books and Bibles, etc. And since the production was so low, only a select group of people were able to obtain them. Gutenberg's printing press was based upon the wood block print invented in China. However, he improved upon the original design as it had many flaws and problems. The printing press shifted society away from oral culture to printing culture. Some argue that the Reformation, Scientific Revolution, and the Enlightenment period could not have taken place without the invention of the printing press. Quan Haas concludes that the spread of new ideas in Western Europe was due to technological diffusion, and Western Europe had all the conditions perfect for making the printing press into a powerful instrument of change. Enlightenment and Revolution, Systematic Knowledge in Action. So the French Revolution showed us that technological advancements are closely connected to military objectives. During and after the French Revolution, the development and progress of military technology foreshadowed the centralized use and reliance of military technologies in warfare. The increased innovation to warfare also leads to an increased death toll, and so this raises the ethical question of technological usage in war. The Industrial Revolution, revolting against technology. Beginning of the mid-18th century in England, the Industrial Revolution advanced three main industries: the textile, steam engine, and steel industries. This era had a major impact on workers and consumers. With the introduction of machines were a large force of employed workers and a large group of unregulated workers. This includes women and children. These machines and workers created a decrease in minimum wage and an increase in unemployed, highly skilled workers. Machines in this era were no longer perceived as neutral, but as actors within a system. On the right are textile workers who are breaking machines in protest. So machines were identified as the key element to the social disparity occurring within society and the poor working conditions. Many workers retaliated against the machines, destroying them to let out their frustration, as many workers believed that it was the machine's fault for unemployment and bad working conditions. Groups formed and banded together, such as the Luddites, to destroy machines as they were perceived as a threat to quality of life, working conditions, employment, and wages. They had two reasons on why they were breaking the machines, and they were to pressure employers to improve wages and working conditions, and second, to direct their hostility onto machines that were time and labor saving. It was a way for workers without union to protest their problems and concerns.
It's time for the electronic. In the late 19th and the early 20th century, major change occurred in technological pace in particular, which we now refer to as a mass or electronic media. The widespread use of electronic media creates certain impact on daily life of humans, which affects family life, community, and public engagement. Mars McLuhan was the first one to draw attention to the effects of mass media on society. Moreover, in order to understand close link for readers between mass media and society in a better way, he used props, and his well-known prop is the medium is the message, which expresses idea of media having close effect on people. Now look at hot and cool media. At the electronic time, mass media includes radio, cinema, and television, and together they created a new era of electronic communication. In the late 19th century, cinema became a mass medium that attracted people to the moving image. Like cinema, television is an electronic device that provides information and entertainment to a large audience. In order to understand the nature of electronic media in a better way, McLuhan separated the mass media in hot and cool media. Moreover, hot media includes print, radio, which require less effort to process. However, examples of cool media include telephone and television, which requires more involvement of consumer to process. The next point is the information society, the bytes and bits revolution. The information society published since 1981 is a journal that advances our understanding of the relationship between information technology and social change. In NTIS, people will get full benefits of new technologies in all sorts of whether they are at work or at home. Sociological work has investigated the effects of industrialization and urbanization on cities, communities, and work. To understand the kind of work brought by the new technologies, we have two examples, iPod and cell phone. Overall, to conclude, this chapter gives examples of technological change by showing how new technological development interact with economic, social, and cultural change. In addition, not only technological transformation is responsible for social change, but also other factors too. For instance, physical environment, values and beliefs, and so on. Thank you.